This is Lord Limbo, and I have a question for you. Have you ever had a stalker? Or has anyone ever tried to kidnap you? Well, in today's stories, two people experienced just that. Stay tuned, because these are not your ordinary encounters. Something darker was lurking, and they barely escaped with their lives. Story 1. The abduction that never happened. I never thought I would go through an experience like this. In fact, I still have trouble accepting that it was real, but it happened with such vivid intensity that, when I close my eyes, I feel the tightness in my chest as if it were yesterday. And the strangest part, to this day, nothing seems to make sense. My name is Sholi, and I'm an ordinary person. I work at a small coffee shop, enjoy walking through the streets of my city at night, and, like anyone else, I have my routines. Nothing that would ever make me think something like this could happen. It was a Friday night, late, when I finished my shift. The street was empty, and the air had an odd feel to it, like it was about to rain. There was a slight chill in the breeze, and the dim street lights flickered overhead. Normally, I would walk home along the same route I always take, but that night something felt different. It was just a hunch, nothing more, but I decided to take a different path. As I walked down a quieter street, my footsteps echoed against the walls of the old buildings. The city felt unusually still, almost like it was holding its breath. Then, I noticed a man walking behind me. At first, I thought it was nothing. Maybe someone else heading in the same direction, but then I heard his footsteps matching mine, keeping pace with me. I quickened my steps, and so did he. I tried to shake it off, thinking it was just paranoia. It wasn't that uncommon to see late-night wanderers in the area, but there was something unsettling about this man. He wasn't close enough to see his face clearly, but I could tell he was tall, his movements stiff, deliberate. I decided to stop at the next corner and pretend to check my phone, hoping he would pass me. But when I turned to look back, he was standing still, just a few feet away, staring at me. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. There was no way he could have gotten that close without me noticing. He had been further behind me just a second ago, and now he was right there, like he had moved too fast, too silently. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though my stomach was in knots. He didn't answer. Instead, he took a step toward me. I backed away instinctively, my heart racing. His eyes were fixated on me, unblinking, as if he was sizing me up. And that's when I realized I was in danger. He wasn't just another stranger, there was something wrong with him. I turned and started walking faster, hoping to lose him in the maze of streets ahead, but my footsteps were now frantic, and his followed closely, never slowing. Panic surged through me. The sound of his footsteps was like a constant, pounding reminder that I wasn't alone, and I couldn't escape. I didn't know where to go, but I instinctively ducked into an alley, trying to find a place to hide. The alley was narrow, lined with old dumpsters and forgotten debris. I pressed myself against the cold brick wall, my breath shallow, barely making a sound. I waited, heart pounding in my ears. I thought maybe, just maybe, I had lost him. But then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps, slow and steady, entering the alley. My blood ran cold. There was no way he could have seen me. I hadn't made a sound. Yet, he was getting closer. The alley was so narrow that there was nowhere to hide. The only way out was the way I came in, but I was too terrified to move. I pressed myself further into the shadows, praying that he wouldn't find me. I felt as if I was holding my breath for an eternity, every second dragging on. The footsteps stopped just a few feet from me, and for a long moment, everything was silent. Then, out of nowhere, I heard a strange noise, a soft scraping sound, followed by a low murmur. It was almost as if he was talking to himself, but I couldn't make out the words. It was disjointed, like the sound was muffled by something. I wanted to look, to see where he was, but I couldn't. I was paralyzed by fear. The darkness of the alley seemed to swallow me whole. I don't know how long I stayed there, but when I finally gathered the courage to peek out from the corner of the alley, he was gone. Just like that. The footsteps had stopped, and the air was still again. I couldn't hear him, couldn't see him, but I knew he had been there, close enough to touch. I didn't wait to find out if he was still nearby. I bolted. I ran as fast as I could, not stopping, not looking back, until I reached the main street. It was then that I realized just how out of breath I was, how my legs felt like jelly. I didn't know if I had outrun him or if he had simply disappeared. But in that moment, I didn't care. I called a cab and went home, locking every door and window behind me. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the floor, every breeze that made the curtains sway, had me on edge, listening for something, anything, that would tell me he was still out there, still following me. But there was nothing. Just silence. The next morning, I went out to check the area where I had last seen him. The alley, the street, everything looked normal. As if nothing had happened. No trace of the man, no sign that he had been there. It was as though the whole night had been some twisted dream. But I know what I felt. I know what happened. Something wasn't right, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something far worse. What bothers me the most is the thought that maybe he was never planning to follow me. Maybe he was always waiting for me to find him. Story 2. The water park incident. It was supposed to be a fun day. A day to relax, escape the monotony of work, and enjoy the summer heat. I hadn't been to a water park in years, and after weeks of stressful deadlines, I thought it would be a great way to unwind. Little did I know, that decision would change everything. My name is Drake, and what happened to me that day still haunts me, though it's hard to talk about. I try to convince myself that it was just a strange coincidence, that nothing sinister happened. But every time I think about it, I can't shake the feeling that I narrowly escaped something far darker than I could have ever imagined. The park was crowded, as you'd expect on a Saturday afternoon. The air was thick with the scent of chlorine, sunscreen, and fried food. The sound of laughter and splashing water filled the atmosphere. I was alone that day, no friends or family, just me, my towel, and the hope for a few hours of peace. After a quick look at the map, I headed straight to one of the larger water slides, eager to cool off. I had been in line for maybe 5 minutes when I noticed a man standing nearby. He was in his mid-40s, with messy dark hair and a worn-out t-shirt. I didn't think much of it at first. People were everywhere, and the water park was chaotic, but when he looked at me, his gaze was unsettling. His eyes were intense, almost like he was studying me. I tried to brush it off, assuming I was just being paranoid. After all, it's not unusual for people to stare in public places. But there was something about his look, like he was waiting for something. I finally got on the slide, trying to shake off the unease that lingered in the back of my mind. The slide was a fast, thrilling rush down, and for a moment, I was distracted, adrenaline pumping through me. But when I splashed into the pool at the bottom and looked around, I saw the man again. This time, he was standing at the edge of the pool, watching me intently. I got out of the water and started walking toward the changing area, trying to avoid him, but I couldn't escape that feeling. He was following me. Slowly. At first, I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but when I turned around, I caught a glimpse of him again. He was further back, but I could tell he was watching me, and that stare, it felt like he was calculating something. I made my way to the lockers, hoping to get a moment alone to compose myself. The area was somewhat isolated, and I thought I might be able to shake off whatever weird tension had built up. But as I reached the row of lockers, I felt the hairs on my neck stand up. There was someone behind me. I didn't have to turn around to know it was him. I tried to act casual, opening a locker and pretending to rummage through my bag. I could hear his footsteps behind me, too close for comfort. I wanted to turn around and confront him, but something held me back, an instinct that told me I was better off pretending nothing was wrong. I was alone in this part of the park, and the thought of causing a scene made me hesitate. Then, just as I was about to finish closing my locker, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I jumped, spinning around to face him. He was standing too close, his expression unreadable. He didn't speak at first, just stared at me with those eyes, so dark and intense. "You lost something?" he asked in a voice that was too calm, too soft. It was a strange question, and it sent a chill through me. I shook my head, a knot forming in my stomach. "No, I'm fine," I said, forcing a smile. But his eyes didn't move. He didn't step back. Instead, his gaze flicked to the hallway behind me, then back to me, and I could see the hint of something dangerous behind his calm exterior. I felt trapped. There were no other people around, no one to help me if something went wrong. "I think you should come with me," he said, his voice lower now, almost a whisper. I froze. Something in me screamed that this wasn't right. This was not a coincidence. My heart raced as I took a step back. I didn't know what his intentions were, but I could feel the threat in the air. The overwhelming need to escape overtook me, and without thinking, I bolted. I ran as fast as I could through the water park, my eyes scanning for a place to hide, a crowd to blend into. The sound of his footsteps followed me, matching my pace, and I knew I couldn't outrun him forever. I weaved through the park, dodging people and trying to find a way out. My breath was ragged, my legs starting to ache, but the fear was more powerful than exhaustion. I didn't dare look behind me, but I could still feel his presence, closing in. Finally, I saw a group of teenagers gathered near the wave pool. I made a split-second decision, cutting through the crowd and blending in with them. I stood still for a moment, pretending to be just another person there to enjoy the waves. My eyes darted back to the entrance of the pool, and there, just a few feet away, I saw him. He was standing at the edge, scanning the crowd, looking for me. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't spot me. The seconds felt like hours, but eventually, he turned and disappeared into the crowd. I don't know if he realized I was no longer there, or if he gave up. Either way, I knew I couldn't stay there any longer. I slipped away, blending into a family heading toward the exit. Once I was outside the park, I didn't stop running until I was in the parking lot, and even then, I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting him to be there. I haven't been back to that water park since, and I don't think I ever will. It wasn't just the man's attempt to isolate me or the way he moved through the park like a predator. It was the sheer knowledge that I wasn't imagining any of it. The way he found me, the way he knew exactly where I was going to be, how he seemed to be everywhere I went, it wasn't random. It was calculated. And to this day, I still wonder if he was ever really gone. Thanks for listening. I hope these stories gave you something to think about. Stay safe out there, and remember to trust your instincts. Until next time, take care.